Banja! Welcome back. Hi friends, it's good to see you again. Those of you who are new here, welcome. And for those of you who are returning, I appreciate it. So, let's talk identity. Because in college, I had a little bit of an identity crisis. I say it with this happy face now, but it was pretty rough. So, you know, going through life, you begin to develop a sense of self, right? And there's things that begin to define you. And it's very much a background process. It's not something you realize is going on. So, as you know, I come from a family of 5. We're 5 altogether. I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. So there's 5 kids altogether. You haven't met the boy yet, but this is, you know, he's doing his own thing. Anywho, growing up through life, I developed an identity for myself that would differentiate me from the pack. I realized in college there were certain parts of me that I realized were defining me. And the reason why I realized was because they were stripped away from me in a matter of a year. So growing up, I was the good kid. I never got in trouble. Throughout high school and middle school, I mean, there was one time I almost got into a fight, but my mom never found out. So in middle school, I used to do good. I was a little do-gooder. So that was the first identity I developed. And like I said, unbeknownst to me, it just was happening, you know, subconsciously I was developing this idea of self, that I was the good kid. My second identity that I developed was that of the smart one. Now this one goes a little deeper. So, like I said before, I have 3 sisters. We're 4 all together. We're 4 girls. That's a lot of girls in one family. And I don't know at what point this happened, but I somehow got it into my head that I was the odd looking one of the 4. I always would look at my sisters and think, you know, they're all really pretty. I look different though. I don't look like them. I honestly do not know where this came about. I have no idea. You know, the devil's a liar. And I just, at some points in my life, I just felt like, yeah, you know, I'm not the prettiest, right? But I'm the smart one. I mean, I'll tell you this, I wasn't cool. I was never really like the cool kid. I was definitely a little bit of a nerd. I've always been a fan of nerdy type things. You know, Lord of the Rings, I love it. Comic book movies, I love them. Reading, I'm all about it. I was just the nerdy one. I just didn't feel like I matched up to, you know, just the grace and beauty of my sisters. So I kind of went the STEM route, right? I liked science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I think that's what STEM stands for. Correct me if I'm wrong. I figured out early in life that I wanted to do medicine. I don't even know where that idea came from either. I think one day somebody asked me, Cindy, what do you want to be? And I said doctor, and it stuck. So I wanted to be a doctor. As I got older, I developed a love for children, like I said, so I wanted to be a pediatrician. And I think that desire for that role, you know, just that prestigiousness of being a doctor, and the fact that I did very well in high school. I was an A student for the most part. And so that's what became Tunz. I am the smart one. I'm gonna be a doctor. That's who I am. That's my grand role, where I fit in this grand scheme of things. Yeah, the Banda children, you know, there's this one, there's that one, and then there's Tunz. She's the smart one. She's gonna be a doctor. Then I went to college, and all that came crashing down. I laugh now. I cried then. 2 things happened in college that just kind of shattered my sense of self. The first thing to go, the first part of my identity to go was the good kid identity. My first semester of college went well. My second semester, not so much. I met somebody who I started dating, and my mother disapproved of him. And she told me very clearly, Tunz, that's not the kind of person you should be dating. I don't agree with what you're doing. I don't agree with who you're seeing. And in so much, she said something to that effect. But she pretty much made it very clear she was not okay with who I was dating. And I made it very clear to her that I didn't care. And so thus began a very contentious period for me and my mother. We fought so much for the next few years about that relationship. It was pretty horrible. We became two warring nations. Whenever I saw her, I would avoid her. Whenever she saw me, she would bring up how I was disobedient and all this stuff. The thing is, she was right about the relationship, right? It wasn't a relationship I should have been in. I was well aware of that. But I just had gotten this rebellious attitude about everything that I thought I knew better for what should be happening in my life. I told her I wasn't going to do what she said because she said it. I was going to do what I wanted to do. I remember feeling like I hit rock bottom when my mother called one of the aunties, you know, one of the Zambian aunties, you know, a well-known, well-respected friend of your mom who, you know, you call her an auntie, but she's not really your aunt. Yeah, that one. She came to visit me and pretty much, you know, sat me down and, you know, was like, Tunzi, your mother has been very grieved about what you know, what you're doing, and, you know, she's talked to me, and, you know, and just like that, I realized I am no longer the good kid. I hit rock bottom. I had an auntie come to talk to me. I am the rebellious child. I am the one my mom is praying about, that God will deliver her from her wayward ways. That became me, and just like that, the identity of the good kid was snuffed away, and I was no longer the good kid. For some reason, I could live without not being the good kid. It was tough, don't get me wrong, but it was doable. Okay, life goes on, right? Wow, more difficult stuff was to follow, because after the good kid was gone, then came the removal of the smart one. I had done so well in high school, I had learned how to not actually work hard. I don't even know if it's that I wasn't working hard. I truly cannot explain to you what happened in college. But it's like all my self-confidence was just knocked down to like 0 because I kept on failing my classes. I literally would like fail classes. I had never experienced that before in my entire life. I'd never failed anything. An F? A 0? That wasn't me. It was just unheard of for Tunzi to fail at something. And I was failing everything. I failed physics. I failed biology. I had to take biology twice. I finally passed biology, but I failed physics like twice. I don't even know how I think I took physics 3 times. I think the 3rd time I managed to pass it. Went to physics 2, failed physics 2. I think I took organic chemistry at one point. I took a W on organic chemistry. I withdrew. I just couldn't get it. And I wasn't understanding what it was. I mean, at first I was like, okay, the boyfriend thing. I obviously am putting way too much time in having a boyfriend. And I knew I wasn't supposed to be in that relationship, okay? I compromised so much of myself to be in this relationship. But I just kept fighting for it because at that point, I had to prove to my mom that I was right. After a while, though, the relationship did fall apart. It's not like I wasn't praying, right? I was praying. I prayed all the time. I went on so many fasts, just begging God to open up my mind. I didn't get it. You know, I sat there and I would look at my books and I'd say, I'm not a stupid person. I'm not stupid. I'm smart. I'm a smart person, right? Why aren't I passing my classes? Why am I out here getting D's and F's and E's and stuff? Like, this is just not me. And so I began to spiral because I all of a sudden was I wasn't me. I didn't feel like me. Me was the girl who got good grades. I spiraled. I was depressed. I came this close to shaving my hair off. I was so distraught. It was a very difficult time for me. I remember I used to cry out to God and ask him why he had left me, why he wasn't listening to me. I was lost. I had no direction. I didn't know what to do, because the only thing that I had wanted to be for most of my life was just kind of not available to me anymore. I just thought, what medical school is going to take me with these abysmal grades? What medical school is going to want me when I just can't do anything right? I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I cried so much I couldn't even count. I felt so alone. So I asked God, if I'm not the smart one, if I'm not the good one, what am I? That's when I realized I had developed an identity that rested on me being smart, me being the good kid. And God told me, you've been putting your identity in the wrong thing. See, the most important identity that you have, Tunzi, is that you're a child of God. Whatever anybody else believes about you, or whatever little small things you've picked up along the way about what makes you you, the most important thing is that you're a child of God. And that was the secret to me getting out of that place of depression, of that place of despair, of no direction. I was never really truly surrendered until I realized that I lost everything and I had nothing else to lose. And I said, yeah, I've been putting my identity in the wrong things. So I finally gave up the fight of trying to hold on to control, and I just accepted that my identity is in Christ. My identity is that I'm a child of God. I wish I could tell you life was like a Kendrick's Brother movie, right? And that at that point, you can roll the musical montage of me sitting in class and all of a sudden I'm getting A's and I passed everything and I finished physics and I got back into organic chemistry and I passed all those classes. I wish I could tell you that's what happened, but it isn't what happened. It's not what happened, because life isn't a movie. The truth is that you still have to go through the lesson. And for me, the lesson was that I had to trust God, and I had to stop putting my identity in all these other things, putting faith in the fact that I was the smart kid or I was the good kid, and putting my identity in Christ and truly embracing what God says about me. I think I went through a little bit more of depression right after graduation. It wasn't as bad as it was when I was in school. I could tell you this, college was the worst. It was horrible. I hated college so much. I can confidently say after I left that godforsaken place, things did get better, but not a lot better. I was still pretty depressed. I still was pretty lost because I had been on a path for so long that once it was gone, I was having a little bit of a hard time adjusting to trusting somebody else with the path in front of me, and trusting somebody else, trusting God. So, with time though, after I accepted that my identity is in Christ and whatever Christ has for me, I'll take that job gladly, I did begin to see the light. God did bring me out of that valley. God has arranged my steps to lead me to this very place. God has been working, on my path since the day I was born. God is the one who gets to decide who I am. I don't worry anymore about my future. I don't worry about how things are going to go. And even though my dreams didn't turn out the way I thought they would, I'm so much happier with where God has led me. I'm so much happier with the plans that he's been showing me that he has for me. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is that of Joseph. I love the Joseph story. It's kind of a tad bit tragic because of all the sad things that Joseph goes through, but at the same time, it's a victorious story. Joseph, if you remember, is somebody who early on in his life, God gives him a promise and tells him that he's going to be really great, and his mom and dad and brothers are going to bow down before him, right? And he's been given the promise. And then things just go downhill for him. He's thrown into a well by his brothers. He's sold into slavery. While he's a slave, Potiphar's wife accuses him of something that he never did, and he's sent to prison. And then yeah, he's in prison for many years before he gets his freedom and comes to work. It comes to that place that God promised him. He goes through quite a lot. Think about how many labels, how many identities Joseph came to have. He was at one point a slave, so he had the name of slave, right? At one point, he was accused of a crime, so he had the label or identity of a criminal. He was an inmate, okay? He got his education, if you think about it, essentially. His practice for leading Egypt and being like second in command to Pharaoh came from the lessons he learned being kind of like the head inmate in prison. Imagine if our vice president was like an inmate in prison. Like, how wild is that? When you think of Joseph's story, for me, it's kind of perfect to show that the only true identity that mattered was the one that God gave Joseph very early on in life. God told Joseph that he's going to be great, and he's going to do great things, and he's going to save his family. And even though all through the years he got labeled with so many things, he still ended up exactly where God told him he was going to be. It was quite a journey. People said all types of things about Joseph, but he got to the point where he really was the great man that saved Israel. What labels have people given you? What things have you taken up into your identity? What numerous identities have we been carrying on that God never gave us? Let go of those things. Let go of the different labels. The only thing that matters is who God says you are. And who? I'm a child of God. I know if you came here and you're not necessarily into faith or religion, you might feel bummed out because you can't really maybe apply this to your life. I can tell you this though, becoming a part of God's family and having him define who I am has been one of the best decisions of my life. And I can tell you, I don't regret it. And it's something maybe you might want to look into. I have some information below in the description box. I think you should check it out. And I hope you find the peace you're looking for. I'm a Tunzi. This is Truth with Tunz on Beat by Banda, because real beauty is not only skin deep. Thanks guys for hanging out with me. I really do appreciate the time that you spend with me. If you think this video can help somebody, please share. And I will see you guys in the next one, okay? Bye, Banja.